and welcome to the FI Newscast, where we bring you relevant news in the food and beverage industry. Today is Friday, May 5th, 2023. We have a great show for you today. Our special guest is 𝗟𝗲𝘁'𝗀𝗲𝘁 Schildhaus, Senior Manager of Public Affairs for the National Confectioners Association. We're going to get into all things candy and snacks, but first, we're going to cover some of the top stories from this week that we think are worth a second look. We start off with the latest on the economy as the Fed released its most recent statements regarding interest rates. The central bank raised rates 25 basis points to 5.25%, the highest it's ever been since 2007. However, the Reserve did hint that this would be the last hike for a while, saying that they will, quote, closely monitor incoming information and assess the implications for monetary policy. The recent fallout surrounding First Republic Bank made many speculate that the Fed would indeed put a stop to increasing rates any further. Meanwhile, in the jobs category, the ADP reported seeing an increase in jobs year over year, but a significant slowdown in pay growth. ADP head 𝗟𝗲𝘁'𝗀𝘂𝗀𝗁 Richardson said that this is a trend that they have been seeing all year. Over in earnings news, we're seeing a bit of interesting stats to compare in the restaurant category. Restaurant Brands International reported numbers that went above and beyond analyst expectations, with Tim Hortons and Burger King reporting double-digit growth in same-source sales. In contrast, Yum! Brands earnings missed estimates for the last quarter, even though sales rebounded in China for Pizza Hut and KFC. Papa John's total revenues decreased by about 3% on a year-over-year basis, while Shake Shack's revenues were up. And more results in earnings for the CPG space. Condiment king Kraft Heinz is bringing in a net sales increase of 7%, a likely effect of continuing inflation and likely offsetting the decrease in volume of goods sold, something we'll continue to look at. Meanwhile, Kellogg's net sales increased 10%, but operating profit went down by 15%. And Anheuser-Busch InBev beat analyst expectations in their first quarter results, despite raising prices on inventory. In company news, acquisition activity is on the rise, and it will be starting with Darden restaurants. The Olive Garden parent is setting sights on another brand to buy, Ruth's Hospitality Group, founder of Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Darden has agreed to an all-cash deal of $715 million, and one QSR chain is hoping for a similar transaction result. Subway is apparently secured a $5 billion debt plan to help potential buyers reach the desired $10 billion asking price. But will it help attract more interest? Food Institute's own Chris Campbell got some insights from Bruce Reinstein, partner at Food Industry Advisory Connect 12. He says, quote, a buyer would have to be someone with deep pockets, considering they are the largest operator in the industry. They are also a franchise-based company. There will be much more interest if their financials show that their new upgrades are driving greater profitability, unquote. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on anyone who may step up to the Subway plate. Moving to international news, a troubling development that will affect crops around the world. Researchers are finding that due to the ongoing climate change, fungal attacks are on the rise. It's threatening the life of some of the world's most important crops and thus the future food supply. The very nature of fungi is cause for alarm, according to experts. The species can travel long distances in the wind, and they are adaptable to any environment, developing immunities to different kinds of fungicides. According to science journal Nature, farmers say they have already lost up to 23% of their crops. Finally, staying overseas and moving into Japan, where scientists may have cracked the code on egg allergies, Bloomberg reports that researchers from Hiroshima University and mayonnaise maker 𝗂𝗶𝗴𝗃 Corp have come up with a way to make eggs allergen-free. Their technology involves genetic editing, removing a gene in hens that creates ovomucoid. That's what produces an allergen in eggs. The two companies are still testing to see if the resulting eggs will have positive effects in humans, but if successful, this new technology could wipe out one of the most common allergies in America today, and it could make a lot of kids really happy. And those are your top stories. We're going to turn now to our special guest. She is the Senior Manager of Public Affairs for the National Confectioners Association. It's a trade association which represents professionals in the confectionery industry, including manufacturers, buyers, brokers, suppliers, and service providers. And our guest is the face of the NCA, speaking on numerous topics surrounding confectionery. She is 𝗟𝗲𝘁'𝗀𝗃 Schildhaus. 𝗟𝗲𝘁, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
and we're excited to have you here. Let's get started. I want to talk about candy. I want to talk about snacking. The Food Institute has recently released a report in collaboration with Mondelez, How the World Snacks. We found that 86% of people in the entire world are snacking more. That's a bit of an increase from in recent years. So I want to get your thoughts from you, Kārli, because obviously people are going to be snacking on candy as well as other things. What are you seeing from where you are in terms of, where we are with candy, in terms of where we are snacking, from your professional insights, your professional perspective?
It's a great point. People are enjoying snacks more. I saw that report. I think it's important to note the difference between snacks and chocolate and candy, what we would consider treats. Snacking is something that we're seeing increase in frequency. Perhaps people are enjoying them as a small meal or even a meal replacement. Whereas chocolate and candy fill this really unique role for people that has this uncanny ability to lighten moods and brighten spirits and add a little bit of sweetness to an ordinary day or a celebration, whether you're with friends and family or just treating yourself. And again, that role as a treat is really key for chocolate and candy. And because of that, what we've seen is something that has stayed level is how people enjoy chocolate and candy. And we're seeing that most people in the US enjoy chocolate and candy about 2 to 3 times per week, which averages just 40 calories and 1 teaspoon of added sugar per day. So again, really emphasizing that they are treats. And that is a reflection of the consumer behaviors and attitudes that we have seen evolve, especially over the past 3 years.
And what do you think are the growth drivers when it comes to recent trends in consumption, particularly with chocolate and candy?
It's such a great question as well. I think that when we're looking at a driver, again, especially in the last 3 years or so, we're looking at how people's behaviors are changing during the pandemic. And one of the things that we saw, especially early on in the pandemic, is that people were looking for comfort foods. We're looking for that little bit of nostalgia that something like chocolate and candy can provide to them. And of course, as the years have gone on, people continue to look at chocolate and candy as that little bit of sweetness, to use the phrase again, little bit of sweetness in their lives. It's a transparent treat. It's an affordable treat. It's an accessible treat. And so it makes it something that people turn to. And then in addition to this really amazing nostalgia factor as people look for that comfort, there's also so much innovation happening in the candy industry that, of course, we're seeing in the snack industry as well, where they're producing these really amazing new treats that people can go out and enjoy, again, with friends and family, or, as a little treat for themselves to try something a little new.
When it comes to confectionery, when it comes to candy, there's obviously a lot of categories within this wheelhouse. I mean, I remember from my days going to the 7-Eleven with my dad, going to the candy section and trying to pick out one of the many options that they had there. So Kārli, from what you are seeing in the industry, what categories within candy are accelerating? What categories are decelerating? Trends. What are you seeing right now?
It's a real story of growth across the confectionery industry. Something like chocolate is a perennial favorite and has been loved for years, but we're seeing non-chocolate candy, so things like gummy candy, grow exponentially in the past few years. And a lot of that is driven by the flavor preferences and taste preferences of Gen Z and millennials. And so it's cool to see that impact on the industry. And then in 2020, we did see a big dip in gum and mints, and it's coming back in full force as of our latest numbers in 2022. We're seeing a strong performance from gum and mints that's helping it to bounce back.
Not entirely surprising to hear about gummy candy. I mean, who doesn't love a good gummy bear? You mentioned earlier, rightfully, that there is a distinction between snacking and when people are enjoying candy, confectionery, chocolate. Let's get more into that, the differences. Are there any similarities that you may be seeing in trends at all? Share with us more of your insights about that.
Again, innovation is really the big name of the game here. The industry is so committed to innovation to providing different flavors, combinations of flavors, textures, anything that you can imagine to innovate the industry they're pursuing. And we're right on the heels of the Sweets and Snacks Expo. We're headed there in just a couple of weeks. And that's where that innovation is fully on display. And it's amazing to see, again, not just those nostalgic favorites, but the inventive ways that companies are able to meet consumers where they want to be met, which is with new, exciting, and bold products.
Innovation, certainly a key that we have been seeing in other categories of the food and beverage industry as well. Thank you for those insights, Carly. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to have more from Carly Schildhaus of the National Confectioners Association. Stay with us. All right, we are back with Carly Schildhaus of the National Confectioners Association. Let's get back into it. Carly, when it comes to today's mentality, the rising trend of people wanting to have a healthier lifestyle, better for you, so to speak, eating habits, how does the NCA, approach this increasing desire on the consumer's part, for more health and wellness?
It's an incredibly important conversation to be having, and America's chocolate and candy companies are looking to meet consumers where they want to be met, and that's includes things like dietary considerations. But what we're seeing beyond that is directional alignment across the entire industry towards helping people manage their sugar intake, whether that's with smaller pack sizes and or front of pack calorie labeling. There are a lot of ways that these companies are working towards that. And just to reiterate a data point that I think is so important is that people really do see chocolate and candy as treats. They understand that it's a treat. It's not a meal replacement. It's something to add that little bit of sweetness to their day. And because of that, just to reiterate the data point, Americans are enjoying chocolate and candy about 2 to 3 times per week, which averages just 40 calories and 1 teaspoon of added sugar per day. So that data, that is NHANES data, shows that, again, people see it as a treat and understand that it's something to be enjoyed occasionally.
Right. And just want to point out, going back for our next question, going back to the Food Institute and Mondelez's report about snacking, how the world snacks, we found that there was like a physical and emotional response to snacking, which, seems to me like you would find the same thing, when people are enjoying candy and chocolate. We found that with snacking, it can be a community builder. It can unify people. When people are hanging out, they start busting out the chips or pretzels or something like that, or they want to try like a new product. When it comes to confectionery, Carly, have you and the NCA have been seeing similar effects to that? You did mention, nostalgia, kind of like that. There is an emotional reaction, a mental, psychological reaction to a certain extent. Can you go into that a little more?
Oh, absolutely. And you really hit the nail on the head there. There is such a strong emotional connection to treats, like a nostalgic connection, or any way that they think that chocolate and candy can enhance a day or an occasion. What we've been seeing through the pandemic is that people really are looking for reasons to celebrate. So you brought up people spending time together and bringing out some treats. People are looking for celebrations. They're seeing more opportunity than ever before. Getting together feels different now than it did before the pandemic. And so this idea that chocolate and candy or even snacks can enhance those experiences is really important to people. And there's this really strong tie between emotional well-being and physical well-being, and people feel that strong connection on the emotional well-being side when they are considering the treats that they want to enjoy with friends and family.
And as you mentioned earlier, the Sweets and Snacks Expo is indeed coming up in just a few weeks in Chicago. That's very exciting. And I want to hear from you, Kārli. So far, as you guys are preparing, do you anticipate any particular categories or trends that buyers and attendees will be looking out for this year? What are your insights on that?
We're just so excited to get back to Chicago for the Sweets and Snacks Expo later this month. It promises to be an incredible event as always. In terms of what we're going to see there, we have more than 800 exhibitors coming out. So it'll be everything from classic favorites to brand new and innovative products as we can expect. And one of the really cool features of the show is called the Most Innovative New Product Awards, where retail buyers come into the room and sample snacks and sample chocolate and candy from all different categories. And then they'll name the winners of the Most Innovative New Product Awards. And those products you'll see them on shelves in the coming year. And it's just such a highlight, such an example of how much innovation happens in the industry, that we're able to get so much of the buying power in the industry into a room to see what that innovation is going to look like, to understand what products and what trends are coming out. And I highly recommend everybody pay attention to what comes out of the show, because that'll be the big trends. And what's really cool about the trends coming out of the show is that we've seen the impact on other industries. It doesn't just impact the confectionery and snack industries. We're seeing the trends that are out on the floor there. In the coming months, we'll see them in other industries as well, including the restaurant industry.
Thank you, Kārli, for sharing that. And finally, last question, but certainly not least, we're talking about all this confectionery. I got to ask you, Kārli, what is your go-to candy or chocolate right now?
That is maybe the hardest question that I ever have to answer sitting in this seat. It really, for me, I think varies by moment. I don't think you can work in the confectionery industry and not be a candy lover. For me, as we head into summer, National Candy Month is coming up in June, which is a month-long celebration of chocolate and candy and the unique role that it plays in people's lives. And when I think about summer candy, I'm thinking about the gummies that we talked about before. We're talking about bubble gum, which is always a fun summer treat. S'mores, I think, is the classic favorite. Take some maybe early melting chocolate and enjoy it in a s'more. So that's really what's on my radar right now as we head into summer. And what's so great about it is that there's a different kind of treat to enjoy at every different season or for every different moment.
I could definitely go for a s'more right now. Summer is coming, campfire, gotta have a s'more, that chocolate and marshmallow graham cracker, yeah. That was a good answer. Kārli Schildhaus, Senior Manager of Public Affairs for the National Confectioners Association. Kārli, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, and really appreciate the time.
Before we go, we're going to take a look at what's coming up in the food industry in the coming days. The earnings releases continue for Tyson Foods, Inc. on May 8th. On May 9th, we'll see results for Oatly and Toast, that's a restaurant tech company. On May 10th, the Bureau of Labor Statistics releases the latest on the Consumer Price Index. And also on May 10th, we'll see the latest earnings for Performance Food Group Company and Wendy's International. On May 11th, the BLS comes out with the Producer Price Index. And on the same day, earnings for Krispy Kreme, Inc., US Foods Holding Corp., and Utz Brands, Inc. And that's our show. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Susan Choi. Don't forget to tune in same time, same place next week when our guest will be Emily Schultz of Bento Box, talking about how to reach more Generation Z in restaurants. Until next time, have a great weekend and take care.